Welcome everybody to the YCharts webinar hosted by myself, Jay Patel, on behalf of Brian Downing's group. I think we're waiting for a few more people here. We'll give them about a minute or two as the start time is 6 o'clock Eastern. All right, everybody, let's get going here. I'd like to introduce YCharts to the group here. YCharts is a web-based financial data terminal, much the likes, very similar to Bloomberg, FactSet, CapIQ, very strong with equity data and research. That's the focus of today's call. Brian asked me to kind of focus on stocks, stock data, stock investments, automated strategies, and also global economic data. So those are going to be the two key components of the call, which is stock data research, automation therein, and macroeconomic global data. So as a background, YCharts data, we cover 25,000 U.S. and Canadian companies, 4,000 data points per company, and 30 years of historical data, including open, high, low, close pricing since inception on the securities. We are very strong with ETFs and mutual funds, but for this call, I'm going to kind of skip over those. Also have 6,000 indexes, so you can really play that data as well in any kind of a comparison, strategy, algorithm, that kind of thing. That includes S&P, Barclays, NASDAQ, Dow. Very soon, it'll include the MSCI database. On top of that data, the underlying data I just mentioned comes from Morningstar, who's actually a 20% investor in YCharts. On top of that data, we have about 300,000 macroeconomic data indicators. I'll go through that in pretty in-depth. And then what I'll focus on with everybody is the Excel add-in. I think that piece of our product, it allows people to code our data, build many different strategies, fundamental, technical, investment trading strategies. We'll cover that closer to the end of the call. First thing I would like to do in the product on the screen is go into our equity screening tool. Really a lot of great things this can do. First thing people like to do is come over to the left-hand side, use this Modify Equity Universe. Right here you have about thousands of different ways of building a universe before you even look at a financial quantitative data point. So what I can do is maybe go and pick an index or a sector or an industry. We also have more granular classifications if you're looking for a smaller niche called NICEs. So, things like charter bus industry, child daycare services, all this different stuff. Also, the ability to upload any list you want. So, like I have here, different lists I've saved and uploaded. Very easy to use that. For a simple walkthrough, let's go S&P 500, and let's just go in here and do a quantitative filter. PE ratio less than 95% times, let's say a PE 5-year median. So you're looking for companies trading about 5% below their averages. Really quickly, it gets me down to about 125 companies. And then what I can do is a lot of different things. I can say, okay, now that I've seen that, show me company stock price less than, let's say 85% times the price target. So what this allows me to do is look for companies with at least 15% upside. You might ask, where's that price target coming from? Our estimates provider is S&P Capital IQ. So what we have is a ton of data on, obviously, estimates on EPS, revenue, et cetera, price targets, buy recommendations, et cetera. So really quickly, I'm able to look at it and see, okay, 30 companies are undervalued from PE, have 15% upside. That's 30 companies. Last thing I might do is look for some underbought companies by using something like RSI. So I say RSI less than, let's do 45, which is a technical indicator, 0 to 100. A lower value means there's a lot more selling pressure, which means it might be a good time to buy. Let's go ahead and look at that. Gets me down to actually only removed 6 companies, so I'm down to 24 companies, but this gives me a great opportunity to show everybody another part of the screening tool. Closer to the middle of the screen, you will see a button, Scoring Models. Probably the most powerful thing on our front end of our product, in my opinion. You go in there, what it allows you to do is go in and build an entire scoring model based on any kind of data you like. So as you see, I have a ton of different scoring models I've built over time, like momentum. This one right here is probably my favorite, though, kind of a fundamental-based scoring model. So I have items like 5-year revenue growth, high return on capital, low debt, high free cash flow. You see all these different weights I applied. With one applies that scoring model to all my results here. So now I can look at these companies, 24 of them, in order based on that information. So according to that data and those weights, Gilead is my favorite company, then Cardinal Health, etc. And it's very intuitive and easy to build. For example, I can come in here and build a brand new one. Let's call it Downing Webinar Score, and then I can come in here and start building it. So here's our database, 4,000 data points per company, all of your financials, valuation, returns, technical, short interest, risk, a lot of great stuff. So let's say I'm looking for low risk, high return. So what I can do is come in here and say standard deviation, that's fine, or value is better, 50-50. Let's go 50. Come in here and say 3-year annualized total return. So now I have annualized 3-year total returns, higher is better, 50-50. Now what's really cool is I'm actually applying another scoring model to the same list. So right now I can look for somebody who's high in both. So it looks like the second result here, Cardinal Health, is a 2 and a 4. So that's something to look into, which I'll do in a second here. Also what you can do is add metric column data. So what you can say is show me different data points for this company on this list without leaving even this area on the website. So what I can do is come in here and say, show me return on equity. Go ahead and plot, let's say, something like EV to EBITDA numbers. So pretty cool stuff there. Of course, you can export all this information to a spreadsheet with one click. Also, you can save your screen. So that's very valuable if you're going to come back and look at these results, etc. So moving on, let's go into Cardinal Health as if we want to research that company further. This is the company data interface. A lot of data here all in one place. Price chart, key statistics, newsfeed, events, analyst coverage, recommendations, price targets, etc. Really quickly now across the top, I think the multi-chart, a lot of our clients like this. It's a great place to create an entire visual database on fundamental data. So like I have here, total employees, 10-year chart, interesting, kind of declining, return on capital, all this different stuff. So now I keep going, valuation tab, pretty nice. Company valuation numbers, followed by industry averages, company time series information. Like I said before, S&P Capital IQ estimates. So a lot of analysts, EPS, GAAP, revenue, EBITDA, all information right there. Moving on, the financials, anybody who's interested, you have about 30 years of financials, 15 formats. You can use all this data anywhere in the product. I'll show you what I mean in a second. Key stats tab might be the customer's favorite tab in my opinion because about 100 key statistics for the company, really well laid out here. Things like financials, valuation, liquidity, dividend information, estimates, technicals, all of that kind of stuff. But at the top left, you have another tab, key stats comparison. Kind of nice. We have an algorithm that plots 6 comparables automatically, which is very convenient in the beginning. And then you can say, well, I know this company, I know the space. I don't like 2 or 3 of these comps. You can hand customize that. That will stay sticky. So it's very valuable to do if you care. Really nice thing is at the top right, export data. With one click, you're going to be able to export that entire database to a spreadsheet. So, some people call this a comparables table, comp set, whatever you call it. It's pretty nice to have that at your fingertips within 2 or 3 seconds of doing an analysis on company head-to-head information. So that's that. Next thing I want to show you everybody on the company pages is kind of why we're called YCharts. It is actually kind of the biggest component of our fundamental equity data is fundamental charting. So what I can do is go in here and say, let's look at the revenue of this company. So I've typed in revenue. Now I'm looking at Cardinal Health revenue. And by default, a 5-year chart, I'm going to change that to a 10-year chart. Interesting revenue chart compared to the employee count, honestly. So I'm going to go ahead and plot the price. So stock price, company revenue, interesting chart right there. Next thing I might want to say is, what about, are they paying a dividend yield? Let's look at that. So I have this information now, pretty impressive stuff so far, but watch what I'm about to do here. I'm actually going to add one of its competitors. So what I'm going to do is say, let's look at ABC, AmerisourceBergen. That quickly, now that company's data is on the chart. As a quick training on the fly here, what the client will do is they come to the bottom left here, panel layout, and they say, let's go head to head. This might be interesting. Okay, very interesting. Looks like ABC's revenue is kind of also on uptick. A lot of times clients like to keep the companies in their own panel, which is interesting. So as Cardinal Health kind of dipped in the end of 2014, beginning 2015, looks like AmerisourceBergen has been pretty healthy all along the way. Pretty interesting stuff there. Let's say I wanted to show this to a colleague, a set of followers I have on social media, put it in a presentation or a report. Another really great feature of YCharts, you guys will see a button right above these charts. Always will be there. Save image. That button right up at the top left of the chart, what it does is it immediately hand delivers that chart to you. Let me make this a little bigger. In a presentation-ready, high-resolution image file, PNG file. So this is right now ready to go in an email, report, social media, etc. For example, it's such an important part for our clients to be able to share this. We actually have an embed button at the top left as well. That actually allows you to just take the URL and immediately embed it into a website, blog, that kind of thing. So that being said, that is kind of our equity walkthrough, our stock research data, comparable analysis, idea generation kind of a walkthrough. Next thing I want to do is go into, well, actually, let me take a step back. Let's take one more second on charting. Really great thing you can do is performance charting. So what I have here is Cardinal Health, AmerisourceBergen, and then what I can do, I'll show you how easily I can also embed things like an index, a sector, very intuitive. So what I do is I go right back into that area, type in SPXTR, and now I have the S&P 500, for example, against these two companies. So that's something you can do. Another thing you can do, which is pretty neat, let me go back really quickly, look at the sector and industry here. Healthcare, medical distribution, okay. So what's kind of neat is I can come in here and say, well, show me that against healthcare. So what I'm going to do is pick on the healthcare ETF, or I can even do a healthcare S&P index, that kind of thing. So let's do that. CRISP US Healthcare Index. So now I've got kind of these two companies in healthcare versus their own sector benchmark versus the S&P 500, and that's kind of cool. Another thing I can do is actually upload a list. So I can say, show me my companies in my stock list, let's say 56 companies against the S&P 500, which is kind of cool. It's called List Browser. So now what I'm doing is I'm keeping my eye on the blue line and looking at it against the S&P. I can scroll up and down in my laptop keyboard and go through the companies. So that's kind of intuitive. And another thing you can do is actually plot some data and say, let's look at return on equity on the company. And so what I can do is kind of keep some data static and still go through all the companies and maybe look for different relationships or some kind of a trend analysis I'm looking for. So that's kind of a neat workflow as well. I'm going to take a second here, guys, have a sip of my soda, and next thing we're going to cover is economic data. All right, everybody, so this is a great database. Brian Downing told me to cover this. I think he thinks it's some great, tremendous, unique value here. Let me start out by introducing what it is. It's our macroeconomic indicator database. Our team has built the technology to go to all of these different sources individually, directly for the data to bring it back here. It becomes almost 300,000 indicators. And the highlights for our clients are, of course, things like foreign exchange rates, interest rates, inflation, housing, commodities, sentiment, very, very strong in global data. We're going to go over that in some detail here, as well as employment and that kind of stuff. But really quickly, so let's go in and let's talk about what clients do with this data, right? So what they do is they go in and they look for different indicators. Let's go into Japan, for example. So you go into Japan, you notice YCharts carries almost 2,200 plus, 2,300 indicators just for that country. And I tell you, on any country database, let me go back in a second here, we have everything starting from the high level, GDP, interest rates, manufacturing, employment for every country, all this good stuff for every country in the world. And then let me go back into Japan and kind of talk about a workflow, right? So what our clients do is they say, okay, let's look at Japan House Price Index. Sure. Okay, interesting. We have that data out to 1975. And obviously it looks like an interesting, there must have been some kind of, I think, big bubble there in the late 80s in Japanese housing. But the cool thing is, it's effortless to kind of bring this information into a visual, even if you're doing something like a correlation analysis, a trend analysis, etc. So here's a 40-year Japan House Price Index. Next thing I'm going to do is show you how easy, okay, let's do Japan GDP. I can add that information as well. And then, let's see about Japan inflation. So kind of cool. And, 2 seconds later, what you can do is say, well, now that I have all this information, let's do U.S. inflation. Let's do U.S., GDP and house price. So kind of a cool workflow. It's very, very simple to put data together head to head. And then you can kind of break it off like this or, whatever you prefer. But another interesting workflow here is the correlation. So I can say, okay, here's Japan House Price Index. Let's compare that to U.S. House Price Index. Okay, so that's both charts. Then what I can do is kind of say, well, let's look at it over an interval, 5 years, percent change. So it looks like U.S. House Price Index has jumped 30% over the last 5 years. Japan's down over 5%. So big, big spread. So that's kind of that data. You come back and you look at interest rates are very strong, employment, demographics. So I'd say for any user who's either doing a trial of our product, kind of explore, understand, kind of click through, look at different items like maybe even agriculture, metals, that kind of thing. So that's kind of that database. Last thing I want to show everybody on this call is the Excel plugin. I think this right here could be the best thing you guys see on the call. At our price point, it's certainly a very, very valuable part of our tool. For anybody who doesn't know, the Excel add-in allows you to code data that I've shown you so far dynamically for any kind of a strategy, dashboard, model, DCF, momentum, you name it. I'm going to show you guys 3 examples. First of all, let me explain. The Excel plugin is a 2-3-minute one-time install, and it connects your spreadsheets to our data server. Followed by, we have about 45 templates on our website that are ready to go. Our clients grab these, they're ready to go out of the box, and there's a ton of good stuff in here. But again, I'm going to show you guys 3 or 4 of these that I think is most pertinent. I think right away, everyone in this room should be very interested in something like this. What our team has done, believe it or not, they've taken 15 years of pricing data and coded it for any security. Then what they did was they had, look, we have buy, sell logic. The first day of every month, we make a buy, hold, or sell decision on the position. And then what we ask for is all the trading stats. What did this trade P&L if we had done this or that different methodology? An end user, it could not be easier for them. What they do is they just type a ticker here and sell C31. So, let's test Netflix. Okay, so if I did Netflix, you guys see how the entire thing went out to the server and uploaded Netflix's data? And you say, this is how much we would be buying, this is how much we'd be selling, this is the P&L of that trade. And again, all that data updated when I typed NFL X, when I typed in Netflix's ticker, all of this data uploaded. So next thing I can do is say, well, now let's go ahead and test I think my screen share is doing something to my Excel here, but what I can do is change the ticker there. Let's move on to the next template here. I think something like this, a lot of clients would appreciate, It's kind of being able to build an entire allocation. Let me zoom in a little bit here. An entire stock portfolio together, and being able to see the performance against the benchmark. So, for example, I have Apple, Chipotle, Johnson Johnson, and maybe I have Visa. So I have these different data coming in automatically, and then what I can do is throw in the weights. I have 55%, 35%, I have 5, and 5. So I have 100%, and then what you can see is how that is doing against the benchmark. Final template I want to show you guys for kind of the workflow that Brian somewhat mentioned would be the correlation one. So as you can imagine, all the client needs to do in this template is type in different tickers. You see I have mutual funds here, etc. But really, I can throw in any kind of companies I want, look at portfolio correlation between the holdings, the portfolio, that kind of thing. So that's the Excel plugin. Again, apologies for this little glitch here. I don't know what's going on with the big screen monitor I'm using in the conference room, but when you test this stuff out, you'll see very powerful. Finally, we do have an API. So I'm showing you the Excel plugin, but essentially, a lot of our clients, our bigger clients, are using APIs to completely code everything out without even Excel. So people are using Python, R, JSON, all different kinds of format languages. And from what feedback we get, it's very, very easy to use for even very novice programmers up to very highly skilled and experienced programmers. So we make it very easy to use the data, and this is an API. So obviously a direct feed, no middleman, no Excel. So that's that. Final thing, we have our dashboard, really nice place to call home, bookmark. So very efficient to look at quotes, alerts, different news feeds, etc. I'll tell you what, everybody, that somewhat kind of concludes my quick presentation here. Like I said, in summary, world-class equity research tool, be it fundamental, technical, data-driven type product, starting with the screening I showed. The scoring models, again, hopefully that impressed. That is definitely, like I said, in my opinion, one of the most powerful parts of this product. Then you go to the company pages. You have a ton of visual analytics, a lot of data crunching you can do, comparable analysis level items, followed by the economic indicators. Huge database, intuitive to navigate, chart this stuff against itself or other different items, as well as all of this for presentation, one click, high resolution presentation ready images files. And then you have the Excel plugin, which really opens up the entire product for custom models, custom strategies, algorithms in a highly automated fashion. And I guess what I will say is, I think we have a question from somebody who maybe wanted me to go over the last template, which would have been this portfolio correlation template. So again, a lot of math going on here. A lot of math going on here, and you can do a correlation there. Going back, I think I got the wrong one. I think somebody asked about this security buy and sell hold model. So with this, again, I guess let's summarize it. Let's not talk about this template specifically. Let's talk about you can code open, high, low, close price for any security out to inception in this technology. You can any kind of logic you want to that. If you're looking for a reversal, momentum, if you're looking for some kind of a big move, if you're looking for, in this case, an EMA, it's either, I forget what the logic was. I was actually part of the team that built this a little bit, but I don't know if it was upside to the EMA or, some kind of momentum to the EMA, but really we have the data. It's, our clients are the brains behind these models, but we have the data to provide, the automation to provide. And our team, I'm glad somebody brought this up, because our team in Chicago is ready and willing to help you guys build this stuff at no extra fee. Our subscriptions include a dedicated account manager and an Excel modeling team to code these things at no extra fee, so keep that in mind. Really quick to wrap up, Our pricing is anywhere between $2,400 per year and $4,800 per year. We have 2 different tiers, and it just matters kind of a couple things here and there are in one tier or the other. But a minimum cost is $2,400. If you want kind of the entire professional version, that's with the Excel automation, the support, you're more going to be closer to the $4,800 per year. Next steps, I'm more than happy to give everybody on the webinar full access for 7 days, as if you're a real client. So we're saying no firewalls, real client license, 7 days, no strings attached. If you're interested, please write this down. My email is j@ycharts.com. That's JAY@ycharts.com. If you email me, I have no problem having my team set you up within 5-10 minutes. You'll have full access to everything I showed you. And I'm more than happy to help you with one-on-one call anytime. My phone number is 312-233-2584. Also, email again, jay@ycharts.com, as well as the fact that because this is all set up by Brian Downing, we are giving everybody 10% on either license. So 10% discount because of this webinar. Obviously, mention that if I don't put 2 and 2 together, say, hey, I saw the webinar, I like your product, I want to try it, and I want 10% discount. Let me know. Other than that, I appreciate everybody's time. Obviously, I can take questions as well over email if you're not ready to do the trial, but something you want to ask me about, happy to do that as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I appreciate everybody's time this afternoon, and I look forward to hearing from everybody. Hopefully, YCharts is a very great tool, and I'm happy that I'm able to share it with you.